Hey folks, welcome back to my channel. I hope you all are having a wonderful day or evening. In today's story, OP found out his wife cheated on him after he came home from a camping trip with his son and noticed her AP lying in his bed. Then things got crazy. Now, let's get into today's story to find out what happened. This past weekend, the kiddo and I went on a 2-day camping trip for some father-son bonding time. My wife doesn't like camping herself at all anymore and doesn't even appreciate our kid and me going. This is a big hobby for me and I want to share it with my son. Usually, we argue a lot about my trips, especially if I request to bring our child. But this time she was oddly cooperative about the whole thing but still insisted she wouldn't join us. I was surprised but didn't question anything because I was so excited that she was finally allowing us to go and I didn't want her to change her mind. I thought we had finally found a common ground and the arguments were ending. I was wrong. We had a great trip and returned back on Monday. We expected to come home to an empty house as my wife should have been at her office for a few more hours. I walked the kid up to his room as he was exhausted and ready for a nap. Afterward, I walked into our bedroom to find a naked man in my bed. I recognized him as my wife's coworker whom I have met numerous times at her work functions. At first, I was in disbelief and even wondered if I was in the right house. Then my wife walked out of our bathroom also naked and I had no more doubts. She looked petrified when she saw me. I have never been so angry. I yelled at the dude to get out of my house so I could speak to my wife. He grabbed his clothes and left. Then we started arguing. I never yell at my wife. We always want to keep things civil for our son, but I was so hurt I was screaming. Then my wife decided to get defensive and she said it was not her fault that I was barely around and camped so much even though I hardly go on trips anymore because she doesn't like it. She said that's what drove me to do this. Your neglect of this family. I was in tears at that point. I just don't understand how her cheating could be my fault. When I turned around to leave, my son was standing in the doorway and I felt terrible for yelling. I quickly consoled him but my wife snapped at me again telling me to get my hands off him. Now she won't speak to me and says I can't see my child until I apologize. Apologize for what? She said we could go on this trip. She planned to cheat and that kills me. It makes me wonder if she has done this before. I'm stuck staying with my parents right now. I don't know what to do. I want to see my son. I'm worried I really scared my child and of course I would apologize to him, just not my wife, but maybe it is my fault. For the past week, I have been working with a lawyer to initiate the process of divorce and gain full custody of my son, with the exception of visitation for now until more is resolved. Things were awkward and tense for the first few days of my being back home, so my wife, using wife to keep things simple and identities private, decided to leave to stay with the guy I found naked with her. I'm disappointed at the example she's setting for our son, but this makes my decision to divorce even more concrete. I will continue to share as much as I can if that's what people would like, but of course the court has its confidentialities that I must keep within its boundaries. Update. Last week I received several texts from my ex saying she was pregnant with an unknown man's child. Obviously meaning she cheated with multiple other people before the one I found out about. She said she plans to keep the baby and start a family with her coworker. Other posts have context. She also mentioned that she wouldn't be fighting me for custody of our son. I told her I would be willing to split custody or at least keep visitation rights for the sake of the kiddo, but she insisted she didn't care about that anymore. I am honestly in awe. I'm shocked she has given up on everything about the family we had, but I am most hurt for my son. At the end of the day, she isn't worth wasting any more of my energy on. I have been spending every moment I can with my kid and will continue to do so. I'm starting to feel more like myself again, and I can't wait to get back into adventures in nature. Wow, OP, she deserves to never have her son speak to her. She might as well disown the poor child. What a selfish excuse for a human. She can't even give a proper reason for cheating. You need to file for full custody as well as child support so this monster of a woman can be away from your son for good. My thought would be that if you can afford it, have her sign away her rights as his parent and make sure she has no visitation rights. This ideally would mean she can't turn up years from now and demand visitation. It should also mean if you were married and you all agree your son could be adopted without involving your ex getting child support, etc., is understandable if you need it and your ex has or will have any money. I presume you could have paperwork stating you have 100% physical custody and any visitation would be supervised as well as agreed on by both parties so you control it. It just leaves an open door for your ex, so cover all your bases in your paperwork, including Erdite will, so if you were to pass away, your ex can't claim your son and can't get any of his inheritance. You also need to start saving up to get your son into therapy. He is 7 years old and is old enough to remember his mother abandoning him. Therapy will help him get over the trauma his mother has caused him and will teach him to have a good foundation for life. I wish you good luck, OP, and hope that you and your son have a happy and adventurous life, and I hope your ex has the life that she has earned. Now let's get into today's second story. I just recently found out that my girlfriend of almost 7 years has been cheating on me for a few weeks now. My girlfriend and I have started dating since middle school, and we always talked about marrying each other and being the only ones for each other, but now I'm not so sure. I first knew something was up when I saw that she wouldn't stop texting one of her work friends. I asked her about the guy, and she told me that it was just some 30-year-old weirdo at work and that they just get along really well, but I always knew something was up. A few weeks after, I had to pry out of her that the guy was making moves on her. She told me that he would constantly try to kiss her, but that she moved away every time. I wanted to believe and trust her, but I still have a strong feeling that something was up. Well, fast forward a few weeks and I was at my girlfriend's place with her and some friends. She spontaneously decided that it was a good idea to go pick up grilled cheese, and she decided that so quickly that I didn't have time to go with her. She just left. An hour went by and I started getting suspicious. I called her a few times, but she kept saying the line was long or that the train was crossing. She finally got home and we all ate and everyone passed out. I stayed up and checked her phone. I ended up reading a suspicious and vague text conversation that she and the guy were having that night around the time after she came back from getting the food. I was so worried you left so quickly. I was getting worried when you didn't pick up your phone. I felt like some messages were missing, so I kept reading their texts from the past few days. On her phone, I found that they texted a lot more than me and her text. They were staying up till as late as 7 a.m. texting every minute on multiple occasions. Eventually, I found a conversation where he said, "I love the way you close your eyes when you kiss me." This was all the proof I needed to confront her. I woke her up. It was 5 in the morning by then and tried getting her to confess, but she wouldn't. She just kept lying right to my face. I really wanted to believe her, as this was the girl that I had loved for so many years, but how could I after reading the conversations she was having with him? The next morning I talked to her about it again. She kept saying that he was crazy and she had no idea what he was talking about. I said if he was crazy, then why didn't she text him right then and asked him why he said that? She said she would, but I felt so bad for stooping that low, so I said never mind. She kept trying to guilt me into admitting that I didn't trust her, and she kept telling me that I could trust her, so I tried to. Well, I spent that whole day alone and crying as she was at work. All I wanted to do was believe her, but I knew deep down that she had cheated on me. Later that night, while she was still at work, I went to her house and got her iPad. Since she has an iPhone, I knew that messages would sync onto her other devices, and I wanted to see if she really did delete messages with the guy, and guess what she did? I read that she did in fact go to his house that night and that they were all cuddled up and wrapped in each other's arms. I also read that she texted him, "Be prepared to lie for me. He wants me to ask you about why you said that you like kissing me." She tried so hard to cover up her tracks, but I was willing enough to stoop so low and read her messages on her iPad. I felt terrible for doing that, but it worked. I learned the truths. After I read all of that, I sent her pictures of the conversation and she came home a little later and we talked about it. The conversation was mostly me yelling at her, calling her names and such, and asking about everything they did. She claimed they never had sex or anything and that they just made out a few times. I know she's lying about how many times. She also said that she spent the night at his house twice, but it was just for cuddling, and I really want to believe that. She thinks very poorly about her body figure. She's only comfortable being naked or even half naked around me, and I did read some of her texts where she said stuff along the lines of, if I wanted to have sex we would have had sex already, or stuff where she just talked crap about her body and him saying I'm sure it isn't that bad. Stuff that makes me want to believe that they didn't have sex, but she still lied to my face countless times even after I confronted her with proof. I eventually said, "You know we can't be together anymore after this," and she just started bawling her eyes out. She wouldn't stop crying. I kept trying to leave and take some of the clothes I left there with me, but she kept pulling me back and grabbing onto me. She wouldn't stop telling me how much she loved me and that it was a mistake, and that now that she knew what it was like to lose me, that she wouldn't ever do something like that to me again, and I honestly do want to believe her. This is the girl I have loved since middle school, But she has lied to me so much that I'm not sure if I can do it. She drove up to school with me for a few days. I lived 3 hours away from school and I was down home for the weekend and it was enjoyable. We were together the entire time, and it made me realize that I can't picture life without her. But now she's back home where he is, and I just can't trust her anymore. I have been freaking out every day since she left, not knowing what she was doing, or who she was with, since I just can't trust her anymore. She said she understood and that she was gonna earn my trust back, but I've read so many other cheating stories on here that it seems like I'm just never gonna trust her again. She turned on her location for me, but she could easily just set the location to her iPad and trick me into thinking that she was home. She still hangs out with the same group of friends. The guy she cheated on me with is in this friend group and it's destroying me. I know she's just trying to have fun with work friends, but how am I supposed to believe that she's really done with him? What do you guys think of this situation? OP, if your girlfriend and her new boyfriend were still in junior high, I would agree that they only kissed and cuddled. However, they are adults and adults have sex. She didn't lie this hard and this often to cover up kisses and cuddles or a man she didn't care about. She slept with him and still won't stop hanging around him and his friends. She didn't make a mistake. What she did was wrong. Chose to lie to you. She chose to betray you and she chose to gaslight you to cover it up. You will not know one day of peace so long as she is still in your life, as she has proven herself to be completely untrustworthy. I wish you the best of luck, OP, and hope you can heal from your situation. Thanks for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please. Hey folks, welcome back to my channel Relationship Haven. My name is Gary and I hope you all are having a lovely day or evening wherever you are. In today's story, OP found out his wife cheated on him after an anonymous number sent him a message that showed OP's wife with another man doing something that was absolutely shocking. Now OP is planning on getting revenge on the affair partner while his wife is begging for mercy. Let's get into today's story. My wife cheated on me with a coworker and now the guy is obsessed with my wife. Right now I'm feeling totally crushed. I can't eat, talk or do anything. I gave her my everything and sacrificed so much for her. Yet she betrayed me. I don't know what to do. Never in my life did I imagine that she could hurt me this badly. She used to be a perfect, loving and caring wife that everyone loved. She is very religious and used to pray to God daily and do rituals married women do to wish their husbands long life by practice of Hinduism. She is perfect in every way and always shows me affection and tells me how much she loves me. There are many things that happen, but I will try to not make it too long. We have been best friends since childhood. We went to the same school and even had jobs in the same fields. I've had a crush on her since we were kids. She was in 2 serious relationships before me and always ended up getting used. She used to despise cheaters. After some years we started dating. I cried a lot that day because it was like a dream that I wanted to see all my life. After 4 years of dating we got married. Both our families didn't agree at first because in India families fear love marriages due to them thinking they always fail. Took us a year to convince them. For the first 2 years our marriage was perfect. Then she started acting strange. She would do the usual of saying I love you, doing chores, random kissing, etc. But something felt different. I had known her entire life and could tell something wasn't right. She seemed to be working way too much lately. One day when we were getting ready to go to work, I saw a message that popped up on her phone and said please reply. I won't ask again. Why are you just ignoring me like that? It appeared to be from some male coworker of hers that I had never seen before. I initially thought it may be work-related, but then I remembered my wife telling me that many employees were leaving the company because of conflicts and salary issues, and during that time she had mentioned his name. Moments later she sat and looked at her phone, then she looked at me wondering if I had read the message. She then had a very suspicious look on her face. I tried to not think too much of it, so I let it go. Then the very next day when she was using her phone she started crying. When I asked what was wrong, she said she was very frustrated about work and was under a lot of pressure. I let her rest her head on my shoulder as she cried. She was a strong woman who always took a stand, so at the time I didn't understand what could cause her to be down like that. She continued this pattern for a week, and whenever I asked her what was going on, she wouldn't give me a proper answer. I did everything I could to be a good husband to her during that time. Here are where things took a turn. After that week had passed, I got a message from an unknown number that showed me pics of my wife in bed with some guy cuddling, while she was asleep naked, and the guy's face was not visible in the pics. After seeing this, my heart stopped for a moment. I couldn't believe what my eyes were seeing. At that time, seeing those pics made me wonder if she was being blackmailed, and that was why she was acting weird. The cheating didn't cross my mind until later. One day when I got home from work, I went up to her and told her that we needed to talk. She started crying after I said this. She knew what I was going to talk about before I even said anything. She immediately started apologizing and said she never meant it to go this far. She then told me she loved me very much and begged me for forgiveness. That's when my world came crashing down. Not a single word came out of my mouth. Felt like I literally went blank. I left and didn't say a word after. I took some time to be by myself, then came home around 4 in the morning after accepting it was a reality, not a dream. She was still crying on the couch. She tried to hug me, saying I love you nonstop. I pushed her away, then asked her how could she do this when our marriage was seemingly perfect. She had crushed everything we had built together for years. I told her that I did everything I could for her as a husband. I gave up my dream job just so I could work in my home city to live with her. The house we were living in was fully paid for by me. She didn't say a word and just continued sobbing. Then I asked her for an explanation for how it started and why she did it. She claimed it was just a one-time mistake that happened. She said she would be willing to leave her job and make it up to me. She claimed she would no longer see him again. She looked guilty and remorseful, but I knew she wasn't being totally honest, as it was not one time as she mentioned, because there were 2 pics of different places from the text messages I got. She didn't know I saw the pics, and when I showed her, her face then turned pale and she claimed he forced her the second time. At that time, the trust one had for her was completely dismantled, and I could no longer believe anything she said. I asked her if she loved him, or if she wanted to leave me, to which she responded no. After talking to her calmly for like 2 hours, I told her that if she didn't tell me the full story of what happened, I would leave right then and never come home again. That's when she finally started telling me from the very start. She said it started when she mentioned our bed problems to one of her friends. Her friend then told my wife how she loves her husband but occasionally cheats on him, so that she won't lose attraction to her husband, and said that my wife should try this to get attracted to me again. This logic made absolutely no sense to me. She said she didn't want to do it, but that the guy she cheated with started flirting with her for some days and she started flirting back, and then they hooked up after some days, but after doing so she claimed she felt guilty. She said she made a horrible mistake, but that she only loves me. After it happened the first time, she tried to cut off contact with the guy, but he insisted to do it just one more time. She refused constantly, but when he told her about the pics, she became scared, so she did it a second time to end it and told him to never contact her again. That guy took pics of her without her knowing both times. After that, he left the company. She says she wanted to come clean to me, but she was so afraid because if it came out to my family or her family, they would make her life a living hell. In our country, people have no mercy for cheating women. If it came out, both of our family and friends would disown her. She told me she hoped it was finally over, but after some days he again messaged her, but this time he didn't ask for sex. He instead said things like I love you. I know you love me too, and we are perfect. The guy was moving to a different state for his job and wanted my wife to run with him and leave me. I think she was saying the truth this time due to the fact that she had been acting weird since last week. I believe her story is true because everything adds up correctly and their chats also prove it, but still their chats were only recent ones and I don't know exactly if they only did this twice or if it happened more. After that I felt bad about it, then hugged her, but then I started getting images of them together, and that's when I lost my cool finally and let my anger out. After that I kicked her out and she stayed at her parents' house without saying anything. Since that day she has called me constantly and messaged me nonstop saying I just want one chance. I promise I will never do it again. I can't live without you and everything, which is making me want to give her a second chance, but every time I think of taking her back I get images of my wife with that guy, which makes my blood boil. Our families were so worried because we had never fought before. They kept asking me what happened, but I will never tell anyone because if I tell anyone she will be dead to everyone. This morning I finally talked to her for an hour about the whole thing. She is truly remorseful and will do anything to be with me and to gain my trust. We talked about all our issues and what to do to that bastard. She said he stopped texting her after leaving the city, but she is terrified as he still has those pics. I hate her now but also love her, and I don't know how it's possible. I want to ask if I should give her a chance. What do you guys think? Hey OP, thanks for sharing your story. In response to your question at the end, no, you should not give her another chance. If she cheated once, she will do it again. She mentioned how this all started off by her friend recommending that she cheat on you. The fact that your wife was stupid enough to take a friend's advice of cheating on you just because her friend does it to her husband means your wife is gullible and can easily be influenced. Another example is how you mentioned that this happened because the guy started flirting with her at work and in return she flirted back. It sounds to me like your wife has no control whatsoever. Do you really want a woman like that in your wife? Taking her back would be a recipe for disaster OP. Also, I understand you're worried about telling her family what happened, but I believe they deserve to know. If her life gets wrecked even more after that, then so be it. That's karma's way of serving justice. I hope you can move on from the situation OP, and remember not to ever take a cheater back. Let's see what the comments had to say about the situation. Stuart Lopez said the first thing you should do is ask your wife for the name of her friend who gave her that god-awful advice and should immediately tell her husband what she is doing. Your wife needs to face the consequences for her actions. No, you should not take her back. Life is too short to be wasting it on someone who does not truly deserve you. Teddygrams 28 said so much to consider here. First thing that comes to my mind is that your wife never wanted to come clean and that she never worried about you when she cheated. Only about how your respective families would react when they find out. In short, she was only worried about her image and not whether she hurt you. In my opinion, that is also the reason why she wants to get back with you. Not because of you, but because others might figure out why you separated and how they then look at her. Second, if she truly was so worried about you, then she surely got tested for STDs, right? Next thing, there is a guy that has nude pictures of your wife and is mad at her because she isn't giving him what he wants. Can you handle it when he shares these pics with his friends or loads them up to the internet where everyone can see them? Your wife says to forget about that. How delusional is she? You cannot just forget about that. That needs to be part of the decision you make. The most important part is something you already figured out. This all only happened because she wanted that to happen. Because she made a conscious decision to cheat on you repeatedly. Even when she did it a second time, she made a decision that she would rather have sex with him again instead of respecting you. She had a choice each time and made her decision. She is not truly remorseful. She regrets that she got caught. That's it. She is worried about how you think of her and how others might react if they find out. Why don't you test the statement of your wife when she told you that she would do anything and tell her to inform the husband of her friend that his wife is constantly cheating on him? Make that to a demand of her coming back and see how she reacts. This all only happened because your wife made a decision to cheat on you and not because a guy has nudes of her. Never forget that. You are worth so much more than to be treated this way. Thanks for taking your time to listen to today's story. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already done so and comment below on what your thoughts are on today's story.